Welcome to the game. Today, I call you to join a quest to secure our OT kingdoms. Now, for the past 5 years at least, the cyber threats and risks towards manufacturing industry has been on a steep increase. And this is also very well known by our managers who allocate more and more resources to boost up their OT cybersecurity defenses. But still, the results seems to come slowly, or sometimes even not at all. In medieval times, when the enemy was at the gates, the craftsmen turned into warriors. Nowadays, in our OT environments, the same needs to happen with our OT engineers, operators, and technicians. They need to turn into cybersecurity champions. And this is why we must make cybersecurity happen with non-cybersecurity people. Now, creating a network of champions is just the beginning. The true success of this journey relies how these people are trained and motivated. Now, it's well known that people learn by doing, and also in medieval times when people wanted to master an art, they joined guilds. Now, in these guilds, they were trained and led by the guild masters. But nowadays, we know that we are faced with much faster learning rhythm. So the question remains, are we missing something from the times when things were learned more physically? Now, let's do a short test. Raise your hand if you recall the song that was playing on the radio when you had your first crush. Okay, some of you are still having that, I guess. Well, if you remember it, would you recall how long the song lasted? Or how long was it on the billboards? I recall my song was The Wind of Change from the Scorpions, and it was always too short. Now let's do a second question. Those who still remember having your firstborn, how did it feel to hold it in your arms? Now do you remember how much the baby weighed? I can only faintly remember having twins, and that's all I can remember of those times. Did you know this? That we tend to forget facts and figures, but vividly remember the things what we can see, hear, touch, taste, or even smell. And that's true. The science shows that the way people naturally learn has remained much the same. We learn through our physical senses. And more we can use these senses, the better memory is formed. And even if these memories are accompanied with some kind of journey or story, and there is a moment of unexpectedness, that creates even stronger memory. Now these memories we call memory hooks. A hook where we can attach new information. And there is a good old way of creating such a hook. You know what it is? It's called the games. Now, gamification, we all know, it has been a buzzword for quite some time already, especially in the area of e-learning. But it often seems to boil down to a completion of a quiz and rarely creates any concrete outcomes, especially towards a topic like OT cybersecurity program or targets. Now, we at Konecranes decided to take a leap of faith and see how the gamification could help us to achieve our OT cybersecurity targets and goals. And the results we got are quite amazing. And that's why we from Konecranes are here on this stage today. So let me take you on a journey where I first tell you what we have been doing so far and still doing. Then I'm going to tell you a little bit about the benefits, what we have discovered of doing things differently. And lastly, you will hear about how this all is integrated with the running OT cybersecurity program. So let the journey begin. Our journey with our champions started a little over 2 years ago when we wanted to see how the gamification could help us with our journey. So first, we gathered the champions around to hear a story about long lost, forgotten kingdom that they needed to reclaim. They hear about different aspects of OT environments, using metaphors, of course. And there is a quiet medieval music playing in the background while they hear about castles, which stand for central place of governance, much like the IT systems we have nowadays. Then they hear about farms, mines, which present the OT devices on the factory floor. And then they hear about the rivers and roads which connect all these together. Now these are metaphors which simplify the complex topics, what our champions don't necessarily know, but they know about medieval stuff. So we are using the memory hooks, which makes it simple for them to understand the complexity. Now after the tutorial is over, and you can also see some pictures of there around these faces, it's time for them to move on to the discovery chapter. Now in this chapter, they discover the assets of their OT environments, much like a lookout would find enemies from the territories, from the watchtowers. Now after the discovery, it's time to move on to a segmentation workshop. Now in this workshop, we utilize so-called pasteboard. On this pasteboard, we just simply drag and drop the assets what we have found, and then start building defensive structures around them. In the end, the result looks a lot like a firewall zoning diagram. Now this is a concrete example of bridging the gap between the story and the real life, using memory hooks. Now all this is then tracked and traced in specially designed story-based dashboard. In this dashboard, you can see in the middle the castle, what we just mentioned, that presents all the assets that was found on the site. Then from these assets, further the OT assets are discovered and put in the OT farmland, what you can see there on the lower corner. Now from these OT assets, the champions start to find more information, more context around the assets. We call this golden nugget picking. Now these golden nuggets are then put in the treasury, and you can imagine, just like in medieval times, the treasury could be used for many things, like building defenses, buying tools, buying resources. And we utilize it in the same way. So we are building the walls around the castle and building tools to increase the visibility. Now on the other up corner, you can see two banners which present different phases, different chapters of the champions. The first one is the discovery chapter, and it clearly shows for the champions that how they are progressing towards their target on the discovery part. And then the blue banner shows the segmentation project and process progress, how they are doing. Now the champions can also see each other's dashboards, which creates an aspect of a competition. And that's what really makes the game into gamification. Now, these are not just isolated ideas, and it's consistent for the journey, for the crusade, to keep the story consistent. Using the same story, same theme, same metaphors in communication with the champions actually transforms this more like a framework instead of just being single gimmicks. Now, let's talk a little bit about the benefits, what we have found. So first of all, we have been able to introduce a sense of play, a certain lightness in the communication with the champions and in the community. You see, it's much more easier for them to ask a question about the game than it would be for some technicalities what they actually don't really deeply know. So there is less fear of being seen as a newbie. And that kind of creates an open community where we actually get more questions and ideas from the champions than it would be in more formal surroundings. Secondly, we are meeting people on a human level. Whether it's some kind of task that they are doing on site, discovering assets, doing workshops, we are living the game with the champions. And then with the results, whether it's a win or struggle or loss, we can share it with the community, with the others. This creates certain brotherhood into the community, kind of special feeling, and binds the people together to fight this and to play this game together. And that's actually quite nice also from my side. And thirdly, we have been able to create measurable progress. Dissecting the big goal into smaller goals, showing it in the dashboard clearly how things can be achieved, what needs to be done first, what next, and then living the journey with them has been very beneficial for them as well. Now, how this all then works with the running program. We all know that the landscape is constantly changing. In our factories and in our environments, we are getting new factories, old ones are being shut down. Existing factories are getting new machinery with new technology, while the old machines are being decommissioned. And also the regulation is changing in the background. So this makes us to be able to adapt fast to the changes. And if one of these changes happen during our chapter, we need to be able to adapt to it. So to adapt, we simply can change the scoring of each target to control the focus of the champions. Or like in the map you maybe saw and remember an area where you saw orcs, you can simply add a new area in the dashboard, just like in the game, some kind of mid-boss that they need to complete. And we also found that the story is a great foundation for adding new chapters. Just like in cybersecurity program, there are projects. So when there is a new project, we just simply add a new chapter, create a new side story and KPIs that are relevant to it. We don't have to start from the scratch. And it's also easy for the champions to identify and rationalize why this next step is coming and what was actually the meaning of the first chapter. So it's just like I told, the journey in your mind. And it's also worth of noting that nothing happens without motivation. Now, when you have clear targets, clear indications how to get them, and actually you're playing the game to achieve the goals and competing with your friends over it, motivates the people to achieve the targets. And that's actually quite efficient. Now, to sum it all up, we have been able to make things more understandable using storyline, memory hooks, and metaphors. We have been able to make things more measurable using clear targets and understandable goals. And with all this, everything becomes more actionable once the champions are actually trying to reach those goals. And now, before I close, I want to give you a couple of hints so you can start with your own gamification journey. First of all, begin with the people. Aim to understand what motivates people. How do you get people to chase the targets what you want? Look for other industries who are good at this. For example, movies, stories, and games. Aim to achieve how to get people contribute instead of just participating. then write your own story. We used the medieval surroundings, but you can choose whatever you feel close to your heart. It can be anything from the science fiction to My Little Pony fairy tale universe. Just pick your world and make it your own. And then, lastly and most importantly, dare to try something new. We all know that the change doesn't happen easily. Otherwise, everybody would be doing this. But trust your expertise and surround it with an engaging topic. Make it pleasant for the others and even fun. Be the guild master, and you will get the results what you're looking for, and even maybe enjoy while doing it. And that's what I'm here encouraging you all to do. Now go and face that dragon. Thank you.